Public participation. Dr. Joyner and Dr. White.
Yes, I'm ready. I have the timer set at 3. And we're asking, I will let you know when time is up and you can complete your sentence. Please ask you to respectfully adhere to the time limits.
Also, if you are interested in speaking, please use the raise hand function. That is the order in which we are calling people to speak. Just give me one more moment and I'll be ready to begin myself. Okay. Our first speaker is Ala Nzambi Okamar. And please apologize if I mispronounced your name. You may begin.
Hello, thank you all for having me here. My name is Ala Ashumare. I am here representing the New Haven Pride Center and representing various parents as well as young folks from the city of New Haven. I'm going to start by citing the second sentence in the purpose section of this policy. This policy is designed to, in keeping with state mandates, to create a safe learning environment for all students and to ensure that every student has equal access to all school programs and activities. So I'm using that as my grounding for our time, my short time here with you all today. I'm not going to cite every portion of this policy. I'd like to highlight key portions. This entire policy is needed. However, as a youth service provider whose informal relationships, I am so sorry, I have a puppy. The entire policy is needed. However, as a youth service worker, these informal relationships allow me to be privy to the emotional unwellness of anti-trans and anti-non-gender conforming practices, bullying, harassment that young folks face by both staff and students. Contacting parents and guardians. The next section, that section is most important. Oftentimes we don't even realize when we have outed someone or the kind of living situation that folks are in. And so these practices will best allow the staff and the students and the teachers to get all on one accord, whether they understand a person's lived experiences or not. The review of Connecticut statutes and regulations, I want to highlight that when all staff that work for the Board of Education understand that courts are not needed, and when they can cite that for folks who don't understand the lived experiences of queer folks, but can understand policy and like to follow the rules, I believe that more staff in the Board of Education, both teachers and administrators, want to be the best that they can for young people as opposed to necessarily wanting to be oppressive. And so for folks who don't know about those lived experiences, this policy will allow those folks, the teachers, the staff, once they know it, once they can recite it, once they have practices on it, they'll be able to really support the young people that in the ways that they need. So thank you so much for my time. And again, I just want to stand and support the New Haven Pride Center wants to stand in support for this policy. And thank you for your approval and getting it in. Have a good night.
Our next speaker is David Weintraub.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is David Weintraub. My address is 51 Perkins Street in Fairhaven. My pronouns are he and him, and I serve as the magnet resource teacher at Elm City Montessori School, I'm a founding member of the City of New Haven's LGBTQ Youth Task Force. Since January of 2018, we've been gathering a broad coalition of over 200 teachers, doctors, parents, university partners, city employees, and students who strive to build an affirming community and empower our LGBTQ youth with resources and advocacy to lead healthy, open, safe, and meaningful lives. We came together for many reasons. Among them, we were deeply surprised and disappointed that our district, this board, has been publicly silent on LGBTQ identities and issues. Until last fall, when you worked in partnership with Eric Pakchowski's team to protect trans athletes from participating in sports, and until tonight, when you will vote to approve policy 5145.53. I'm grateful to the many individuals from district leadership and the governance committee, among them Evie Velasquez, Tiffany Jackson, Dr. Tamiko Jackson MacArthur, and Matt Wilcox, who have been instrumental in moving this forward. I'm thrilled to see clarity in this policy regarding rights to privacy, official records, gender segregated activities, bathrooms, sports, and discrimination, as well as professional development. On professional development, the policy specifically states, the board directs the superintendent to provide for the training of all district staff in transgender sensitivity in what it means to treat all people respectfully and equally. Developmentally age-appropriate trainings shall also be provided for all students. Tonight, we expect our board will adopt this CABE-recommended set of policies to provide top-down clarity about the values our district espouses to ensure all members of our community are guaranteed their rights. And I'm here tonight to celebrate necessary next steps already in motion regarding professional development. Tony Ferriolo has secured funds from the Yale Gender Program to provide 20 90-minute LGBTQ trainings at no cost to the district. This training is geared towards K-12 educators, inclusive administrators and paraprofessionals. Tony's been working with district leadership to plan implementation already. He lives in New Haven. He's been training schools across the state and nation for 15 years, including recently at ESUMS and hopefully soon at Metropolitan Business Academy and across our district. Board members, please continue to ask district leadership about updates regarding the comprehensive rollout, and community, please reach out to us if you want your school to be one of the first to host a training. Concurrently, district leadership and the Department of PE Health and Athletics, led by Eric Pakchowski and Marvin Cristelli, is exploring the implementation via pilot of an LGBTQ inclusive health curriculum. They've worked to incorporate topics throughout the units of Michigan Model for Health using resources from GLSEN, Amaze, and Advocates for Youth's 3R curriculum. They're working to be more gender affirming and inclusive, and it's not enough. We have a lot of work to do. They've been working for months with Meg Bell, who recently led Boston and Worcester public schools in their efforts to implement gender inclusive curriculum kindergarten through 12th grade. Everyone, please support us in advocating for strengthening our health curriculum. The City of New Haven's LGBTQ Youth Task Force meets regularly and all are welcome. You can email us at nhblgbtq@gmail.com or follow us on social media. Creating safe and affirming schools for LGBTQ youth is an ongoing process that requires all of our constant attention. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Megara Bell.
Hi, good evening. My name is Megara Bell, and I'm actually, thank you for the hello from David last time, but I'm reading a statement on behalf of a New Haven student that was not able to attend herself. Hello, my name is Eliza Cruz, and I'm a senior at Hill Regional Career High School. I am here today to stand in solidarity with trans youth in New Haven Public Schools. What I want to clarify is that I am not saying that New Haven Public Schools has been intentionally or greatly transphobic. What I want to clarify is that having this policy implemented ensures the protection and safety of trans youth. New Haven Public Schools has been working and actively works on being mindful of intersectionality within the school system. This policy that protects trans youth only helps this intersectionality within our schools. Trans youth deserve this fundamental right to privacy in keeping their status to themselves unless they decide they want to outwardly identify themselves as trans. Just as I am able to keep my status as a cisgender woman to myself, trans youth should be extended the same right. I outwardly identify myself as cisgender, but not by force, but because I choose to let that information be known. Allowing trans youth to have full access to who should and should not know their identity gives them the same autonomy that I am already inherently given as a cisgendered woman. As a school community that values diversity, it too should value the protection of its diverse people. The constant refusal of not granting trans youth the liberty to defend themselves, to identify themselves, what gender they want to be identified as, is blatantly disrespectful. I understand that refusal is one I will never be able to conceptualize fully, but it is one that even I can see the harms of. Having a school system that refuses to grant the right to children to be seen the way they see themselves is harmful. It shows that this diverse community shows no respect for the trans youth who just simply want to be seen for who they are, and more importantly, be respected by who they are. School is meant to be a fostering place where everyone gets the equal chance to learn, but also a place where it can be safe. For me, New Haven Public Schools has been a community that has welcomed not only my academic contributions, but my identity as a marginalized person. The same should be extended to trans youth, and I am beyond proud to stand in solidarity. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Ashley Stockton.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Ashley Stockton. I am a proud teacher at Wexler Grant Community School. I'm a New Haven resident and a parent of 2 students in the district. This is my 21st year as an educator, and tonight I will speak about teacher retention in New Haven Public Schools. Teachers are told to acknowledge the circumstances outside of school that impact children's development and availability for learning. These factors include poverty, racism, trauma, and even a global pandemic. Teachers are told to focus on instruction and interventions we are able to manage and monitor despite external circumstances over which we have no control. This school year, we have heard our superintendent make mention of teacher shortages on the national and state levels. In addition to teacher shortages throughout the nation and the state, we must acknowledge the rapidly growing teacher shortage in our city. Teachers are resigning each week. In fact, 12 teacher resignations are listed on the other materials report tonight. New Haven cannot control the national or statewide teacher shortage, just as I cannot control the factors outside of school that impact my students. However, our district can commit to understanding why teachers are leaving New Haven. Executives and administrators can create and implement plans to retain us. These plans can then be progress monitored and refined in the pursuit of retaining certified teachers who will help our children learn and grow. This can and should be done despite national and statewide issues that we cannot control. I admire my Wexler Grant teaching colleagues and care about them deeply. In school year 2021, 13 teachers left Wexler Grant. 9 of my colleagues resigned and 2 retired from the district. 3 months into this year, 4 have resigned from our school and the district. I have spoken with many of these teachers. Almost all of them have signed contracts in neighboring school districts and are teaching here in Connecticut. Over the past 3 school years, 12 teachers of color have come and gone from Wexler Grant. 9 have resigned from the district. My purpose in speaking tonight is to bring this to your attention. Our teachers are leaving for very clear and very concrete reasons. I have heard it said that teachers who leave don't care about children, or that leaving mid-year is thoughtless, or that teachers who leave only care about money. I refute these narratives and ask this administration to commit to understanding why we are leaving. Tackling teacher retention requires listening to those of us teaching in the classrooms each day, providing a safe space free of retaliation for us to explain our current experience is the only way for you to gain an understanding of the why. Recruiting teachers will not have to be the goal, and lowering the bar for certification will not have to be the goal if this district takes the long view and works to retain those of us who are here. Thank you for your consideration for your work on behalf of our children.
Our next speaker is Fana Hickinson.
Good evening. Hi, Fana Hickinson here. I am a New Haven teacher and resident. I'm the advisor of Gender and Sexuality Alliance at New Haven Academy and a member of the LGBTQ Youth Task Force. I am here tonight to read the testimony from a student who could not be here. Hello all. I apologize for my absence in tonight's meeting. I would have given everything to be here tonight to express how I feel about this policy, but thankfully, Fana is here to read this statement out for me. My name is Asada Johnson, and I am a senior at Hill Regional Career High School. I believe in privacy and protection for all, regardless of age, gender, race, or any other factors that may contribute to any kind of discrimination or mistreatment. We need to protect and respect transgender and non-binary students. We as people, a faculty, and students should be giving transgender and non-binary the same amount of respect like they would give any other student. It is not that hard to use proper pronouns and names for a student if they asked for politely. There shouldn't have to be a constant reminder of please respect me when it should be given, as teachers love to remind us students that respect goes both ways. Transgender and non-binary students shouldn't have to go to great lengths to gain respect throughout the building. These students are students in the building and deserve respect and privacy. If they don't want to disclose that they are transgender, they shouldn't be forced to. You wouldn't ask a random woman if she was assigned female at birth, would you? Transgender or non-binary students shouldn't have to disclose any information that a cisgender student wouldn't have to. They also deserve respect from all students, faculty, and staff. They are not other, they are students. And that is what Asada wanted to share tonight. Thank you.
Our next speaker is Leslie Bartow.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Leslie Blateau. I'm a teacher in New Haven as well as a parent. And one of the reasons I am proud to be a teacher and parent in New Haven Public Schools is because New Haven has a history of leading on issues that are important to the development of the whole child. Tonight is another example of this leadership in New Haven. I'd like to recognize the hard work of the New Haven LGBTQ Youth Task Force and express my gratitude to the task force, the Board of Ed, Central Office, and most importantly, the compassionate school staff and students working with trans students and gender non-conforming students every day. I'm inspired by the policy that the board will pass tonight. First of all, gender expression and trans students' rights can and should be protected by both Title IX and the First Amendment. To be on the right side of this civil liberties issue is the right thing to do. Secondly, the clarity of this policy will help school communities to honor students' identities and ensure students feel safe and respected in their schools. And most importantly, this policy serves as a clear reminder to students that New Haven Public Schools will support them. They can begin to come to school with the reassurance that we, the educators in their lives and their fellow students, will make a collective effort to learn more about what it means to be trans and gender nonconforming, and to learn more about how we can best support our students. I look forward to the ongoing collaboration with the board and the task force as we work to implement this policy. Now our collective task is to carefully and purposefully move it from this meeting and the papers that it sits on to our school buildings, where it will live as a policy where our students learn, struggle, and grow every day. Thank you. I appreciate your time this evening.
Our next speaker is Tani Mohammed. Ms. Cookson Mohammed, you may speak.
Hi there, sorry, I didn't realize it didn't unmute for me. My name is Tanique Hussein Mohammed. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I'm a parent of a child who is gender nonconforming, and others have already shared like how important the policy is, and I just wanted to share just some personal experiences that my child has had while in the district. My child was definitely bullied many times throughout elementary school and in middle school because of how they identified. And when they were ready to come out, I was asked to, share with the teacher their pronouns, and just not knowing, just not understanding, because they did not have this knowledge, didn't understand they, them pronouns. Like when I shared that, this person asked, like, so your child thinks they're more than one person. So it wasn't to be mean or malicious. It was just something like, when you don't know something, you just don't know. So the importance of the education for staff and for other students is just absolutely critical. I also wanted to share that I had suggested with an administrator in the summer of 2020 to start a GSA at the middle school. And I was told that it was not age appropriate for middle schoolers to have a GSA. And I was so very happy to learn that since there are a number of middle school GSAs now. But at the time, it was a big reason for us to leave the district, because it was not, it did not feel that school and so the district, because it was not gender affirming. It did not feel affirming for my child, and my child did not feel safe at school. It's not that there was no one, it was just, there was not enough. And so the lack of gender neutral bathrooms is also a high concern for my child. And what else did I want to say? Sorry. Again, I just really wanted to share, how very critical having a policy like this is. It literally is and can be life-saving for so many students.
Time.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Sarah Armstrong.
Hi, my name is Sarah Armstrong. I'm a resident of the Edgewood neighborhood. I'm a parent of 2 recent New Haven Public School graduates and a current high schooler. I care really deeply about New Haven Public Schools, about New Haven Public students, New Haven Public educators, and I try to spend a lot of my time paying attention and listening to many folks involved in New Haven Public Schools. Tonight, however, is the first time I actually am speaking at a BOE meeting. And for whatever hesitancy I might have about adding to public comments, I felt that hesitancy is so outweighed by the bravery that our LGBTQ plus students, particularly our trans and gender nonconforming students, display on a daily basis, just going to school and living their lives in their truth. So I want to be very explicit in thanking all who worked so hard on this New Haven Public School policy that you are voting on tonight regarding trans and gender nonconforming students. And I speak out in strong support of it. We know that queer youth, but particularly trans and gender nonconforming youth, are an extremely vulnerable population. We see statistics, they show us time again and again, the rates of unhoused youth, of issues of self-harm, of attempted suicide, of violence done to trans people, most particularly trans and gender nonconforming Black and brown folks. The statistics far surpass these same statistics for non-trans or queer youth. And this is why the formal adoption of this policy by the Board of Ed tonight matters tremendously. I hope that our trans and gender nonconforming students experience what this policy lays out, that they are respected, they're believed when they tell us who they are, they can bring their whole selves to school, and they are going to be safe in doing so, and that they will be able to participate fully, like fully belong in their school communities. So thank you. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your work. Thanks for caring about the youth.
Our next speaker is Kirsten. Please state your full name.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yep.
can.
Yeah, hi, this is Kirsten Hopes Mcfadden. I'm here to talk about similar to what Ashley Stockton talked about. Not we've not had the issue of that many people leaving from ESUMs, but we've had a few leave from ESUMs, and it was not because of the money, even though they did get more money when they left. I do believe that you need to have a committee to talk about teacher retention and why people are leaving the district. What I am here to talk about, what I also want to talk about is the additional money that is coming into the city and into the district. I received an email. I didn't read the whole email, but I read parts of it about some of the money can be used to hire bus drivers, to even increase their salaries, I believe. And we often hear that all this grant money cannot be used for teacher salaries. So I want to know why we can use it for bus driver salaries and other people's salaries, but not teacher salaries, when there's absolutely no reason to have a bus to drive kids up to a school if there are no teachers there. Is there a way to use, we took a pay freeze last year, and I'm so tired of people saying that we're dealing with a district that has no money and that we should just be happy to get what we can get, when that is so not true. We're having several windfalls now with the two different grants, whether it's the ESSA grant or the American First grant, I believe it's called, and the money that Yale is not giving to the district. What is going to be the translation in salaries, an increase in salaries, stipends, or anything to for the teachers that have stayed behind? No, we are not in it just for the money, but we do have to pay our bills. We're not in it just for the love either. And if the money is there, how come teachers cannot get some of that money? Why does it have to be a fight to get that money? Many teachers are concerned about the upcoming negotiations and afraid that we're going to get a pittance of the money again in our negotiations. It's not helping you. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. You're cutting off your nose to spite your face. Not paying your teachers well is causing a mass exodus of teachers. And it shouldn't be such a fight for the union to get money for its teachers. And also shouldn't be, we should be just grateful for whatever pennies that are thrown at us. We work hard. We do a lot. We are on the front line every day. We're dealing with behaviors that are out of control now, probably due to the lack of socialization, pandemic, and we should be compensated for that. And I'm just asking you to think about that when negotiations comes up next year. Thank you.
Our next speaker, Najaya. Najaya, please state your full name.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, so my name is Najee Poindexter. I am an alumni of New Haven Public School Systems. I graduated from elementary school, middle school, and high school within the system. My daughter, who's currently in 5th grade, re-entered into the New Haven Public School System for the first time this year. And I have a kindergarten also in the New Haven Public School System currently. Our experience over the last month and a few months has been very difficult for her in the transition into New Haven Public Schools. There are safety concerns at the New Haven Public Schools, and it speaks towards the last speaker about teachers. So my student in the 5th grade had a substitute teacher since the beginning of school. I don't know her qualifications. I don't know what policies and procedures she was briefed on, but long story short, my daughter was severely injured in an altercation in the presence of that teacher. She suffered a concussion. We were in the hospital in the emergency room from after school till after midnight after she was severely injured, and another student intervened prior to intervention from that said hired personnel. In addition, after the altercation, she went with another student to the bathroom. She went with another student to lunch. It was hours before me as a parent was notified that my student was actually assaulted in your New Haven public school system. Moving forward, she has suffered physically and emotionally. She wants to speak to therapists. She is traumatized at her first couple of months experience in the New Haven public school system. This was her second encounter that led to a physical altercation within a 2-week span, but
I don't know if she's been cut off.
Ms. Poindexter, you went mute. It sounds like you're still speaking. Your line is open.
it's not.
Hello? Okay.
Oh, can you hear me?
We
Time out.
missed about the last 30 seconds.
Oh, okay.
I'm gonna have to add 30 seconds to her time.
Sorry. So
No
it
problem.
was very emotional for me as a parent and very disturbing to see what was going on in the New Haven public schools now, because as I said, I graduated from elementary school, middle school, and high school there. And I went to James Hill House High School, which was one of the larger high schools. And I've never encountered such leniency. So then she has to go back to school with the same student, and she was only suspended for 3 days. So I don't know what the remedy is, but I wanted to share my negative experience with the Board of Education members and with everyone else on, because I'm pretty sure if I've experienced it, you might have experienced something similar, but it was a very traumatizing event for my child. And then the support and lack of support from the school itself, and even reaching out to the Board of Education, was baffling to me. Everyone was reactive. No one was proactive at all. The lack of communication was evident, and the fact that no one even called me for 2.5 hours from the initial event to me being called. The event happened before lunch. I didn't get a call to 2:24. My daughter didn't get medical attention till almost an hour after initial event. So it's very disturbing, and again, very traumatizing as a parent and as a 5th grader to a new school in a new district.
All right.
Madam President, that concludes all the hands that are raised at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner and Dr. White. I am going to move up the president's report. So we'll do that now before the action items. And I would just like to say that Dr. Jackson and I would like to acknowledge the 2 students from Career High School and HSC who recently passed. We hope that you would join us in taking a moment of silence. Thank you. Dr. Jackson and I were just talking about earlier how nice it was to see how the school community supported those families. And so I want to thank the schools for doing that. And our thoughts and prayers are with the families. Dr. Jackson, did you want to add? Okay.
No, thank you. You said exactly what I envisioned. My heart and my prayers are with these families and with the students.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to the action items. Approval of the board meeting minutes. Mr. Wilcox?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion, and that is that we approve the meeting minutes from the November 8th, 2021 meeting.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Mr. Conway?
Just have one correction on under 186.186-221. On page 4 of the last meeting, it should say NACC NAACP. NAACP.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. I did mention that at the last meeting.
You did.
So if we could just make sure to make that correction. That would be great. Anything else? Attorney Alexiadis?
Unmute yourself. Can't hear you.
Tried to unmute myself and failed. Check the spelling of Mr. Fiore's name on the first page as attendees of the meeting, please. That's my only comment.
Mr. Fiore, right, it should be Fiore. Any further discussion? Thank you, Attorney Alexiadis, Mr. Conway. We will vote on accepting the minutes of the November 8th meeting with the corrections. Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Ms. Roman is not on.
Yes, she told me she'd be late. She's here.
She is, okay, sorry. Ms. Roman, you will vote?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Fiore? Okay, Dr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mayor Eliger,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well. Minutes pass with corrections. Personnel report, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you, Madam President. Good evening, board members, my team members, and members of the public. We have a very short personnel report. I ask that the board accept the personnel report as is.
A motion to Dr. Joyner.
Madam Chair, I move to accept the superintendent's personnel report.
Thank you, Mr. Wilcox.
Second.
Any discussion? Dr. Jackson?
The personal report includes this purple sheet also, correct?
No,
That's just information only. The personnel report is just
the blue sheet.
the very bright blue now. I nearly blinded me when I opened it.
Oh, okay.
It's almost like your sweater.
Yes. Any further discussion on the personnel report on the motion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on accepting the personnel report. Dr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Bolton,
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Ms. Raman,
Yes.
Mr. Fury still not on, right? Mayor-
Mr. Ferry had to leave. He had a technical problem.
Okay, thank you. Mayor Eliger,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, and personnel report passes. Dr. Jackson, did you have a question? You're muted, you're muted.
I just want to make a comment about the information only. I just noticed one of the retirements, Denise Duclos, and I've worked with her plenty of times. And I think that I want to wish her well. And she was a stickler for detail with the school readiness. And I worked with her on different venues. And I just want to say that's a lot of experience and knowledge retiring out of the system. And I do wish her well. And she did an amazing job in the roles that she had while she was here.
Thank you. Okay, the next item, the approval of the transgender and gender non-conforming youth policy. Dr. Jackson.
So as promised, we had some legal wording to be fixed last time. So before you is the final is the policy. And I just want to thank everyone that came on in support of this policy that was that has been needed for so long. So I hope that everyone votes in favor of this. I hope that it is a unanimous vote.
Are you making the motion?
I move that we accept the transgender and gender non-conforming youth policy before.
Dr. Joy, did you have your hand up?
I wanted to second the motion.
Second, okay, thank you, Dr. Jordan. Any discussion? Dr. Jordan?
You know, I've lived a long time, and I've seen this country try to expand the whole notion of who's human. And this is a real emotional moment for me, because as a young child, my father taught me that everybody had a right to live a fulfilling life. And he meant everybody. And he said that the golden rule did not have any adjectives. It only said that we should treat others as we wish to be treated. And at a very young age, I discovered James Baldwin, and he talked about how hard it was to be poor, Black, and gay. And
Yes, he did.
And I think if you read any of what he had to write, and if you read Bayard Rustin, if you read many of the giants of the Harlem Renaissance, that you'll see that this is, while it's late, I'm proud to live in a city where people have a chance to be who they are. And I probably need to stop talking.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Ms. Mack?
Good evening, board. I just noticed a typo on the action items report under page 1. The date for Courtney DeMaria, it should be 1/3/22. It states 1/3/2021. And as you very well know, January was 11 months ago.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilcox and then Mr. Conway.
Thank you. I just wanted to say I'm in very clear support of this policy and very thankful we're taking it up tonight. I also wanted to thank a few people that were helpful in bringing this before the board. You've heard from some of them tonight: Tani Cookson Mohammed, Aaron Rashaud, David Weintraub, members of the LGBTQ Youth Task Force. And then I was also very appreciative to hear some student voices being read tonight. I thought that was very great as well. One of the speakers today did talk about the life-saving potential of a policy like this, and the Trevor Project, which is a group that works on reducing teen suicide of LGBTQ youth in their mental health survey for 2021. Talk about 42% of LGBTQ youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, and more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. And that one of the things that is very helpful is that they report that LGBTQ youth who had access to spaces that affirmed their sexual orientation and gender identity reported lower rates of attempting suicide. So that kind of bears out that idea there. So I think that this is going to be an important policy for us. And I would also like us to have this on an agenda. I'll be making the request later in about 6 months in March or April that we have an agenda item where we're talking about how the progress is being made in implementing this and the trainings that are already starting to occur thanks to some generous donations. So just like to thank everybody that's worked on this.
Mr. Wilcox. Mr. Conway and then Dr. Kirsten.
Yes, I just wanted to say I'm in clear support of this policy. I was I heard all the voices and all the people that spoke. I think that we need to pay particular attention to the professional development that's been offered. And congratulations to the policy committee, Dr. Jackson, your committee, and all those who participated. Thank you.
Dr. Tracy?
Thank you, Madam President. I would be remiss if I did not acknowledge the hard work of Ms. Tiffany Jackson, and who has worked so hard to get these things done with regards to policies in the New Haven Public Schools. With all the work that she has doing, she's been relentless in working on these policies. So I have to make sure I acknowledge the hard work that she has put in working on documents to get them through.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Okay, seeing no further discussion.
I think Mayor Elica has.
The mayor.
Oh, there you go, Mayor Elica.
Thanks. Sorry, I got my hand up a little bit late.
That's okay.
Just wanted to echo the comments that made by a lot of folks. Very appreciative of a lot of work that's gone into this. And I know that it's been delayed a little bit because we wanted to get it right. In some ways, it's nice that it was delayed because the New Haven Pride Center celebrated its 25th anniversary just this past weekend. And well, I guess 2 weekends ago, or like a week ago. And so the timing is good for us to celebrate this together. Everyone should be able to be who they are in whatever environment in our city. And this, I think, proclaims that in a very proactive and positive way. I had a quick question. I think it's for maybe Evie Velasquez or Eric Pachowski about the Michigan model for health. And I appreciate you sending that information to me. Have you, it seemed like it was very heavy on abstinence, and this is not my area. I haven't spent a lot of time looking at it, but I wonder if you have considered other curricula that is, works with students on sexual education, gender and sexual identity, LGBTQ affirming health education, and whether there's been any exploration of any more appropriate models. Not saying that, I don't know enough about the Michigan model to say it's not appropriate, but I'm curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that question, Mayor. So the Michigan model for health is older curriculum. We have, as a staff, updated it ourselves using Dave actually gave us resources to go to. So we've gone through every lesson that is that, and we've updated it to make it affirming. We've updated it to make it inclusive. I think in the long term, though, we need to start looking at a new curriculum at some point. We do plan to work with the 3 Rs to start training for our staff and add more supplemental stuff to the curriculum. But the Michigan model itself, we've had to add, COVID, different things. It's been in the district now, I think, a little bit over 10 years. So, we've updated it as we go on to meet the needs of what's going on, in the world currently. But I think at some point, yes, we do need to start looking for a more modern, overall curriculum.
Thanks. I appreciate that. I'm sure that, I and probably some other board members would be happy to help support that effort to explore if there's other models that might be even better. Thank you.
Thanks.
Dr. Jordan?
Actually, I can talk about this during teaching and learning. It'll be a response to what Mayor Elica asks.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Okay, seeing no further discussion, we'll vote on the transgender and gender non-conforming policy. Dr. Jordan?
Yes.
Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Mr. Goldson?
Yes.
Ms. Roman?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that motion passes. Congratulations. Second reading, approval of the opt-out sport policy, Dr. Jackson.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. I just would like to say that because there is a set of parents who have opted to opt their children out of standardized testing, there have been situations, and there are situations where students are told to stay home, they're marked absent, they're made to feel different. This is what created the interest in making this policy. This policy is simply to support families who have chosen to opt out. We've done a lot of conversation. There have been edits. I want to thank my colleague, Matt Wilcox, for really sending in some good edits that, in my view, explained how the district recognizes the need and the reason why they're testing, and that this is not in any way going against that. And that's why the policy is called Standardized Testing Opt-out Support Policy. I did not get any edits from anyone else, no questions from anyone else. And at our last meeting, where Mr. Wilcox and I really hammered out this final, the final draft, and that went out, I hadn't got any other questions. So I would like to put this policy to a vote today. So I am moving the standardized testing opt-out support policy.
Mr. Wilcox.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Dr. Jordan?
I'm going to vote for this, and I'm voting for it because I believe that every moment that a child spends in school is very important. And if parents decide to opt out, their kids are still entitled to that day's, whatever education they can get out of that day. I think that New Haven is cutting edge in just about everything. I just hope that we can execute some of the things that we're trying to do, because we really are trying to create the beloved community that Ms. Jills Lumpkin reminds us of every time she gets a chance to speak. So I will be supporting this.
Thank you, Dr. Jordan. Any further discussion? Okay, seeing none, we'll vote on the approval of the opt-out support policy. Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Goldson?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Ms. Roman?
Yes.
Mayor Elicker?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well, and so that motion passes.
Thank you. These were two very important policies tonight in support of students. It's almost like, you know, hitting the ground, the grassroots. This is really, really amazing work. Thank you to my colleagues for these policies tonight.
Thank you, and congratulations on that one too. Finance and Operations Committee, Mr. Wilcox.
Thank you very much. As always, if anybody needs anything moved separately or would like anything moved separately tonight, I'm happy to do that. I would like to draw the attention to two items to the board that we're going to be voting on tonight. One is the agreement here with the Cornell Scott Health Center. This is for the Student Health Center at the Mayo School. So this is the contract that's going to allow, or the agreement's going to allow for getting that started, maybe as early as February or March. It includes purchasing equipment for that, as well as getting things going. And the second thing is, because this is the first time we've seen something like this, which is the request for the Head Start waiver. And what this is Head Start wants us to send a letter requesting that we not have to pay or have our budget reduced by $34,000 retroactive. So it's Mary Derwin, our supervisor of Head Start here in New Haven, did provide a memo in our packet that basically says that it's we're going to be allowing them to request from Head Start that this is not, that we don't have to have any financial responsibility for that. So I did want to mention that. So I would like to make a motion, and that is that we approve the 2 abstracts, the Head Start waiver, the 1 agreement, and the 1 change order is listed on the agenda.
Dr. Joyner?
Second.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Any discussion? Seeing none, we'll vote on the finance and operations items. Dr. Joyner?
Yes.
Mr. Wilcox?
Yes.
Dr. Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Conaway?
Yes.
Ms. Haman?
Yes.
Mr. Goldson?
Yes.
Mayor Elifer?
Yes.
And I am a yes as well. And so ethanol items passed. Students report.
Madam.
Dr. Tracy?
Under Mr. Wilcox's report on finance and operations, Ms. Hannons is to present the updated budget report.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want the student report before that or.
Madam
Go ahead,
President.
Mr. Wilcox.
Yeah, the regular finance and operations report, this was just the action items. The
Oh,
regular
this is just the
report does
action
follow
items.
later on.
Okay. Okay, thanks, Matt.
So we'll move on to the students report.
Hi, I hope everyone's doing well today. I just would like to say that, I'm big on mental health and I always come into meetings and I love to talk about that because I really want to improve it. One thing I would like to say is I know that many of the New Haven public schools do not have social workers, or I'm not sure how it works. I believe some of them share them, or the social worker can't be there all the time. I would just like to say we really need to improve on that because it's getting worse and worse every day. We're not creating any outlets. There's not any seminars talking about it. There's not after school programs. And then when you guys do send out an email about mental health, it doesn't get out to the students, it get out to the parents. So then the students aren't really aware of that. And I feel like that's just unacceptable because now it's going really far. And just like with the LGBTQ community at the last citywide student council meeting, a lot of them talked about how their mental health wasn't okay. And many teachers and adults made them feel uncomfortable when they tried to be themselves. So that's just one thing I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hammond. Any questions or comments on that, Dr. Jackson?
I want to thank Mashai for bringing all of what she's thinking about and what she's seeing to our attention. I guess this comment is to, I don't know who would answer, Dr. Tracy would know. Just Mashai, I know there's a lot of work being done around services and the health of our students, mind, body, and soul. I know they're working on I forget what is it called? Aren't you guys working with Clifford Beers? What are those workers called that the district is getting?
Care coordinators.
Not sure. Yeah.
Care coordinators.
Care coordinators, Mashai. I think that it will be great for whomever is the contact to talk to you about that. Say it. What is it, Dr. Tracy, again?
Care coordinators.
Yes, care coordinators. Because I think that that's what you're kind of talking about, and I believe that's what they're going to be working on. So health care coordinators, keep that in your mind, because I want you, maybe Mrs. Lumpkin may be able to help you with that, or Dr. Tracy could connect you to the right people.
And to Mashai, we do have social workers in the schools. Now, do we need more? Yes, probably need more because of the uptick in what we're seeing.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Okay, teaching and learning, Dr. Joyner. Dr. Joyner?
Yes, I have to make a quick run. I don't have we're doing a lot of work in teaching and learning. And I want to wait until the next meeting to give the report of that. But I want to take about 3 minutes. I guess if we can give public comment 3 minutes, we can give so I'm timing myself. Mayor Elica raised a great point about curriculum. And anyone who knows the history of the movement of total inclusion will know that there are very prominent people in almost every period that would have been castigated or looked down upon in communities unlike our community, which embraces everyone. And as a student of African-American history, I note the work of Bayard Rustin, the work of James Baldwin, Alice Walker, a number of people who were not considered as human. And unfortunately, religious institutions were the leading persecutors of people like that. And I'm hoping that will change. But I'm reminded of a quote from Martin Niemöller, who was a Lutheran minister in Germany. And he said, first they came for the socialists, and I said nothing because I was not a socialist. And then they came for the trade unionists, and I said nothing because I was not a trade unionist. And then they came from the Jews. They came for the Jews, and I said nothing because I was not a Jew. And now they're coming for me, and there's no one to speak for me. And I really love this board for this openness and willingness to try to say that everything under the creator, and I use the term creator because I don't want to offend anybody who's not religious, but something created us, whether you believe it or not, is important, they count. And I think we can use our curriculum to actually show the body of work that has been produced by people that were seen that way. And I know African Americans are so proud of the Harlem Renaissance. If you know all the backstories of those poets and writers and musicians in the Harlem Renaissance, you know that they would have had a hard time in certain communities. And many of them couldn't reveal who they really were. They couldn't tell their truths. So I think I'm working with a great superintendent and a great assistant superintendent for curriculum and instruction. And I think we can use the content of our curriculum also to make some points about contributions of a wide range of human beings and the lessons and stories that they've told us and taught us about what it means to be a loving species. I know there's some storms around us in the country, and that's sad, but we have some control over our own environment. And we can't just rely on the school district. You know, the mental health issue is not just the province of teachers. Everybody that is in a position to help a person that's suffering should do that. And I'm going to stop talking to practice what I preach. I'm done.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner.
You're welcome.
Any questions or comments on the teaching and learning? Okay. Moving along to the superintendent's report, Dr. Tracy.
Thank you so much, Madam President. As what we want to make our custom in this board meeting is to always focus on the vision and mission of New Haven Public Schools. So taking a page out of our strategic school plan that the board had passed, the mission is to provide students in New Haven Public Schools with personalized, authentic, and engaging learning experiences through creativity, exploration, innovation, critical thinking, problem solving, and high quality instruction. And under such name or mission, we want to foster a culture of continuous improvement. And of course, our vision is to be the best school district, the best. We call it premier school district, the best school district. And I strongly believe it can happen. Our core values: equitable opportunities, a culture of continuous improvement, high expectations, and collaboration. And we have identified 5 priority areas: academic learning, youth, family, and community engagement, operational efficiencies, culture and climate, and talented educators. And I want to say on this vein that my Chief of Staff, Dr. Michael Finley, is now doing a SWOT analysis of the district across teams, across schools, to figure out what are some things, just to identify from the perspective of others, what are some things that New Haven Public Schools is doing very, very well? What are some things that are being done well? And what are some areas that staff and others see that we need to really make great improvement in? After that report is being given, we want to tackle those things head on with teams of individuals as part of that great collaboration that is a part of our core values. So I just wanted to say that. So now we have a part of what we do and we're doing. Ms. Tiffany Jackson will present on what we refer to as mental health. Tiffany Jackson is going to present on mental health.
Yep. Thank you.
And then after that, we're going to have another presentation from me on, let me see what that is, a few on transportation update. Go ahead, Ms. Tiffany Jackson, it's your turn.
So thank you for that, Dr. Tracy. I think it may just be a moment. Dr. White has to bring in a couple of people. I don't know if we're all here at this point in time.
Listed is here.
Everyone who's listed is here. Okay, I
There's
can see
one not in the room, but who wasn't on the call. But yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So thank you very much for your time, Ms. Monica. If you can start sharing the screen. So just to give thank you very much for giving us the opportunity to talk with you today about addressing mental health in schools. For board members who are following along in their board packets, just know we did rearrange some of the slides. So just in case things may not be in the same order for you. But one of the things that we are doing and the way that we're approaching mental health, it's not just about having a social worker or a school counselor or a school psychologist or someone from a school-based health clinic, but it really takes a whole community, really creating a community of care through building good relationships with our students and building good relationship with our staff members enough to be able to address the mental health, the social, emotional well-being of our students. Again, our work is grounded in the work by Dr. James Comer, again, as relationships matter. For all of the issues that may be deemed as mental health, again, we know that we as a district can mitigate those things by creating this community of care for our students. As Dr. Tracy talked a little bit earlier about the strategic plan, we do have this notion of addressing the social emotional health of our students and our staff embedded in within our strategic plan. Again, under the priorities of culture and climate. We have a goal that specifically talks about addressing and developing the whole child. Whereas we talk about creating the safe school environments, social emotional growth, equity and excellence. And a lot of that, again, is really how we're addressing the whole child through a multi-tiered system of support. Again, that's a collective responsibility, not just a responsibility of what we consider to be our counseling staff, but all of us coming together to be able to support our families, our students, our staff, with the help of the community and everyone being responsible. So thank you. Johanna?
Yep. So as Tiffany mentioned, we know that we have children that are experiencing mental health concerns and challenges, and we know that COVID-19 has really made an even bigger impact on mental health. So what we want to talk about is what we are doing in schools right now in New Haven Public Schools. And if you take a look, we do have counseling staff in each building. Every school building has at least one school social worker, with the comprehensive high schools having more than one social worker. School psychologists, school counselors, school-based health clinicians are all part of the mental health team that are in our New Haven Public Schools. And if you take a look at how we have increased mental health staff in New Haven Public Schools, you will see that we have added 22 members of our mental health counseling staff between 2017 and 2021, knowing that we need these staff members to help support not only our students, but our families as well. And if we think about the role of what our mental health staff plays within our school buildings, we can say that they support students on an individual basis with counseling, but also group counseling. They go into classrooms to help support teachers. They provide teachers with strategies. Also, they are a resource for families in order to help families get resources beyond the school community. Also, our counseling staff is there for their peers, their staff in their school buildings. They offer staff wellness opportunities and also offer opportunities for parents with wellness as well. We have in our building also social emotional behavior specialists, and these are made up of our BCBAs, behavior technicians, retention specialists, climate specialists, and other support staff. And what they do is really help our school buildings with some of the most dysregulated students that are in our buildings. And they offer support to our teachers and other staff in the buildings in order to provide strategies and feedback on how to work with some of these students. If you think about our youth community family engagement professionals, they really help support our students, thinking about a Maslow's hierarchy of needs ideology and really thinking how to meet students' basic needs and, with resources and making sure students have what they need to come to school every day, making sure they reach out in terms of attendance concerns and further resources for families. So really providing that support beyond just the school day and the school building.
Another thing that we've done in New Haven is we've brought back Project Pride into the buildings. And this really provides an opportunity for students to utilize their social emotional well-being as well as mental health well-being supports that they're learning about in real life experiences. One recent experience was with Project Pride taking Riverside students to Sleeping Giant. And during that time, they put into practice using their problem-solving skills. They put into practice working on building relationship skills with students that they may interact with differently in a school academic setting. They really embrace taking on the notion of opportunity to try out and really problem solve together. As they're hiking through the Sleeping Giant, they can meet together to decide on which path they might take, etc. Another thing that we've done is really provided for all students pre-K through 8th grade. We've had the opportunity as a district to purchase Second Step for pre-K through 8th grade students, and for high school students, a School Connect social emotional well-being resource that really allows for universal support for all students, for all teachers to be able to support students with topics. In addition to that, we've been providing what we're calling an SEL Weekly that looks at the lessons and the resources that are within the curriculum and the materials that we've provided as a whole school approach, whole district approach, to find additional resources and activities that can be integrated throughout the day. So right here, you see an example in Second Step. They've already done a lesson about encouraging helpful thinking and thoughts. So now there's a few other lessons or activities that have to do with providing more opportunities about thinking about how to use positive mindset when approaching problem solving. The SEL calendars is another approach that supports the Wellness Wednesday that we started during the COVID time, which really, again, gives more chances and opportunities for students in all academic areas and all content areas for teachers to provide the experiences and the learning around different topics such as empathy. And the final way the final way for SEL is really, as the team has already stated earlier, it's not only about the students, but we're also thinking about the staff and the educators in the district that are also needing some more support in mental health well-being. And we've worked together to continue something we started during COVID, which we called Wellness Moments. And we've been meeting regularly, started to meet regularly with a team of educators to find out through them what are the things that can be beneficial. And then we've started to schedule those types of things. And we have a few coming up in the next month, which include problem of practice to support things that are happening in the classroom, as well as walk and chat is something that they've asked for, to be able to talk with their colleagues and just really have time together to express what's going on and deal with their own supports. As Tiffany had stated earlier, we're really framed around this collective approach and collaborative approach of creating multi-tiered system of supports, which supports the resiliency and collaborating with not just us. We've always worked from the whole child framework and continuing to bring that whole school, whole community approach together is something that's really important. In regards to tier 1, we've already talked a little bit about that. The second step in School Connect resources really help to support everyone, a universal approach, as well as focusing on the culture and climate of the building, which allows you to celebrate and help students to set goals and to really have opportunities to celebrate the things that are going well and also supporting things that they may need help with. We've done that through one-to-one conferences. We also sometimes bring parents in. We have support teams such as SST that allow us to look at what's going well for students and what other supports they might need, which brings us to the tier 3 supports, which can be more specifically related to needs of students once we've had time to work with the students to see and identify what they might need in regards to support. And it works with not only the students, the staff, the family, and sometimes outside community agencies that we collaborate together with. We've also been providing professional development opportunities across the district, and one of the most recent ones, professional series that was by Dr. Jan Ponson, who came in and spoke with our educators about the mental health effects of COVID for children and family. And we'll continue to build those as we work together as a team of what is needed.
We understand that there are a variety of social and emotional concerns, specifically post-pandemic. Social and emotional concerns vacillate within seasons and times, and there is a wide range of emotional needs. Oftentimes, educators commonly find and observe symptoms ranging from anxiety, low frustration tolerance manifesting in anger, affect, regulation issues, attentional challenges, and mood deficits. There are universal strategies in place to support presenting and growing mental health concerns. Some of these strategies include teaching feelings identification, stress management, stress reduction strategies. This is done through proactive modeling self-talk skills, modeling explicit and direct instruction, additional strategies such as cueing, structured breaks, the intentional embedding of brain breaks, and rituals, structured classroom routines, and daily check-ins. The use of literature and non-linguistic representations such as feeling charts, some examples are mood meters, ruler, zones of regulations, are being utilized to gauge students' baseline in order to navigate a multi-tiered intervention response. Looking at the universal tiered supports, educators have worked rigorously to build communities and communities of care and place an emphasis on building and maintaining student relationships, assessing their needs, connecting with service agencies. Furthermore, educators actively and persistently collaborate both internally and externally with providers for students who require Tier 3 supports to ensure that we are addressing and supporting the well-being and the varying needs of our students. We know collaboration and partnerships with all stakeholders are essential, and we continue this work as a team as we know it truly takes a village.
Thank you for that. Ms. Gemma? Gemma, are you on?
Yes, can you hear me?
Oh, yes, go ahead.
So I'm going to speak to community building and the beloved community that we believe requires a healthy cooperation and interactions. NHPS is a complex community with students who speak 60+ languages, and the entire community has complex variety of needs. But I want to also emphasize that this community has been enormously resilient under severe pressures, stresses, and strains. Our students, our teachers, our staff, our families. But we are seeing some of the issues that are associated with the difficulty of the last year or so. And families are facing experiences like food and housing shortages. And there are other issues that become barriers to our student success and the harmony within the community. We, in the restorative work, believe that that first step is to eradicating those barriers, is to build a community between the students, among the students and teachers and staff. And we do push building those circles that employ personal narratives, not just checklists, but those narratives that help students and staff connect and learn about each other in ways that increase our own natural desire and interest to cooperate with people that we know and understand. And what we are seeing in the work that we're doing is students are moving around more, running out of classrooms, walking the hallways, congregating in bathrooms, resisting adult direction, forming small groups to protect themselves from real and perceived threats. So we are working from the SEL perspective, from the restorative perspective, to respond to requests, to dealing with conflict through circles, through problem-solving circles, and we are getting some pretty good responses to that work. We've done 44 planning meetings with school-based personnel, 244 individual students pre-conferences, 41 conferences actually held, 42 days of school-based observations. All of our principals have been asked to identify one person to support the work in their schools. Cameo, Nikisha, Sergio help with the support work. And we're working to, with New Haven Promise, to hire part-time 6 mentors, restorative mentors, along with those who are working with us during the school day. We'd like to bring back students who graduated from our schools, who are not that far removed from our students, to mentor both our students and help connect our staff in a culturally competent way. There is also an intersection between families, community, and students where we have intense crisis situations. We believe that supporting families through this work requires care coordination, a model that we know Clifford Bears have used successfully to reduce chronic absenteeism and other issues. We are bringing some of that work in-house so we can do some immediate referrals when we see those crisis situations occur. And yes, our goal is to reach and create that beloved community.
Great, thank you, Ms. Gemma, for that. Last but not least, we felt it was really important for all of the things that we're talking about from a district level and how it's happening in the school, for a school to actually talk to you a little bit about how they're addressing, utilizing a whole school approach to address the students' social and emotional well-being. So with that, Ms. Kathy Mattern will be here and introducing her team and talking to you a little bit about the work that they're doing at Truman School. Ms. Kathy?
Hi, good evening, everyone. I'm Kathy Mattern. I'm the principal of Truman School. At Truman, we've been utilizing the whole school approach to supporting student social emotional well-being. I have a few of my team members here just to talk about some of this multi-tiered strategies that Tiffany and her team had talked about. I have my social worker, Omaira Binion, who's going to talk a little bit about the Triple ST, and I have Megan Jackson, our Clifford Beers. Unfortunately, I don't have my classroom teacher here, but I'm going to let Omaira start, please.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Again, my name is Omaira Binion, and I am a school social worker at Truman School. So first, I'd like to talk a little bit about our Triple ST process that we utilize at the school. It is a multidisciplinary team, so we meet every other week, and we do have care coordinators are part of that process. We have our in-house clinicians, one from Clifford Beers, Ms. Megan Jackson. We have another clinician from Cornell Scott Hill Health Center, as well as our school counselor. We have our gym teacher. So we do have educators as joining us. In addition to our mental health providers, we have teachers that come in to present on students that are really struggling and who have not been responsive to different interventions that they have tried within the classroom. so that we can come together and brainstorm and explore what interventions can be utilized, various resources that we can connect the student and the family to, and to develop a plan to support the student in moving forward and being more successful while at school, as well as any home supports that are needed. The other thing that we implemented this year is a weekly girls group. And we targeted our 7th grade girls because we knew that the transition to 7th grade is difficult under normal circumstances, and that many stressors associated with the pandemic could further impact that transition. And so groups are co-facilitated by a teacher and a mental health staff member. Students were given a list of hands-on activities that were going to be offered that they were able to sign up for based on their interests. And, we really wanted students to have an opportunity to get to know one another outside of the classroom and be kids and just have fun, because we know that that is very therapeutic for our kids as well. And, what we've seen with the group is that they're able to experience and practice a lot of the SEL competencies that they're receiving in social emotional lessons in the classroom. The group is actually able to come together and practice some of those competencies. So for example, they're recognizing their strengths, they're building their self-confidence, they're engaging in activities that they can utilize for self-management. So many of the activities that we're doing with them can really be relaxing activities. They're participating in small group activities with students that they may not normally spend time with. So hopefully that's assisting them and appreciating and respecting those that are different from them. And of course, they're practicing their communication skills, their relationship building skills, teamwork, and their social engagement skills. And so the group has been really successful, and we have really amazing, talented girls at our school. And so what we've discussed moving forward is even having some of those students co-facilitate future groups with either a teacher or a mental health professional, so that they can kind of share their talents with their peers and take on a leadership role. So we've been really excited about this group this year.
Thank you so much, Omira. I do also have Megan Jackson on, who is our Clifford Beers clinician. Megan has been supporting our whole school initiatives. So one of the things that she's been doing great is some of our kindergartners who have separation anxiety. Megan has been meeting them at the door every morning and walking them to class. Not only does she take groups, but she's in the lunchroom, she's in the hallway, she's doing check-ins. And we really value Megan's work this year. Megan, if you can, I don't see you, but are you on?
I'm here.
Oh, okay, Megan, throwing it over to you.
So like Kathy said, I try to be in the front in the morning to greet both, kind of all grades and get them down to where they need to be. I also have a few kids throughout different grades, so I try to pop into different lunches, especially for those kids that have some difficulty managing kind of the larger groups or kind of integrated kind of chaos of lunch. It's not the schedule timing of what a normal classroom might be. So between that and Clifford Beers has partnered up with the other program of mobile crisis within our department. So I've taken on the role of responding to mobile crisis intervention calls that are needed, the 211 calls needed at the school. This gives us the opportunity of kind of forming a relationship with the child and kind of following through. This way, the communication stays all within our school, and it's easy to follow up with services and kind of both the child and family needs. This way the communication isn't lost through different providers, and it's easy to know kind of both my caseload and Alba through Cornell Scott to see kind of the connection being made immediately. It also gives us a connection to both the psychiatric evaluation at times and as well as providing a care coordinator. I know everyone has kind of been bringing them up. They're a very useful group of people that have been integrated into the SSST meetings and and have really been making, especially the holiday season, easier of getting gift cards and coats and different needs to families to make the transition, especially with housing. They're able to communicate with a lot of different needs at this time. So having one specifically come to our SSST meeting to not only speak to the families on our caseloads, but to see if that would be the right program for them or some different opportunities as well of community resources. Some other things that we're able to provide, unfortunately not at this time with COVID, but hopefully we are shooting for next semester, is bounce back and CBITS to be able to identify trauma-related children who need support in maybe the social emotional setting of both groups, and that could also use individual treatment as well. So having someone like myself be a part of a team with Omira and Kathy and our other providers has been really useful to kind of broaden all of our resources together to understand kind of community-based, school-based, and how to get families more integrated into the school system.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for listening and having Truman here. And if you'd like to come and visit Truman, please come. Thank you, everyone.
With that, Ms. Mattern, thank you again, Truman team, for being here. And thank you, everyone, for listening to us all. Again, as we mentioned, that the mental health work in schools is not just going to be the remedy of folks with a counseling background, but it's going to take us all as a village to really wrap our heads around how we're addressing the mental health in schools, and then also making sure that we're also addressing the mental health needs, of our staff. And again, Truman team, again, thank you to you. You guys are a good example of how we're integrating all levels of support, inclusive of the teacher, the community service providers, and the work that you're doing. So thank you for that. And with that, Dr. Tracy, I think we're done unless there's some questions, and I'll give it back to you.
Thank you, Ms. Jackson. Are there questions from the board pertaining to that report?
Yes, Dr. Jordan, I just wanted to say thank you all for the presentation, and Dr. Jordan has a question or comment.
Actually, I'd like to commend this group, this principal and these staff members, and also it's a classical way that central office and school buildings should operate, as well as the alliance with external service providers. Some of you might know, but I actually was the executive director of the school development program and developed all the training materials and the evaluation instruments with support from others. And you guys are doing it right. The challenge is that we have so many more problems now than we had then. When Dr. Coleman started work in 1968, a problem in the classroom was kids chewing bubble gum. And of course, I don't remember anybody ever getting shot at a young age. And we also had a different political climate in the country. And all of these things affect schools. If you think about it, we're the largest transportation agency in the city. We're the largest restaurant in the city. We're becoming one of the largest mental health agencies in the city because we serve 20-some thousand kids and 2,000 or 3,000 staff members. And we're asked to do just about everything. And Tiffany Jackson, Keisha Red Hannons, Michael Finley, all of you guys work very hard. And our mayor is very thoughtful and wise about how you coordinate services. But we need more support from the community. And schools have never been able to go it alone, never. That's why the African proverb, it takes a whole village, came into existence. It didn't start with Hillary Clinton. She wrote a book, but it's an ancient African proverb. And even though we live in a highly technological society with social media and with wayward leadership in some cases, we still have to try to mobilize the village. And I'm speaking directly to parents who are within the sound of my voice. You have to help us more with your kids. And you have to do more at home to help us. And I'm also speaking to social activists. You just can't show up at a protest. You have to be doing something beyond that, before and after. And if we don't get that kind of help, all the problems that were talked about tonight about people leaving the system, it's going to be hard. And we're still trying to hold it down in New Haven, while some people don't think anything at all about gay people or transgender people. They don't think they have a right to exist. We don't feel that way here. But we're trying to hold it down, and we need your support. You can be critical, but without support, you can just keep your criticism to yourself, because we need it. And I think at this age, I've earned the right to say this, and I will not stop saying it for the next 4 years that I have on the school board. We have to have parent support, extended family support. If you listen to Teddy Pendergrass, Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Wake Up Everybody, that the message is in that music. It's in that music. So tonight, if you get a chance, put it down, listen to Marvin Gaye too. You know, what's going on? And let's get this stuff together. Let's try to help these teachers and these paraprofessionals and the superintendent and the mayor and our police officers. Let's try to help these folk create a stable community so our children can learn. And the kids, when they reach a certain age, they also have to take greater responsibility for themselves. I knew the difference between right and wrong when I was 6 years old, probably 5. And so we cannot change this society if we focus more on excuses rather than solutions. So I'm getting me a soapbox. You might even see me on a corner, because we have got to tell the truth about what our challenges and problems are. And you've got to help out, because these folk cannot do it by themselves. We cannot have kids going in the classroom because they saw TikTok and say they're going to slap a teacher. I hope nobody ever tries that with me. I'm old, but I still got good reflexes. And all this nonsense that we allow our kids to do, we got to stop that nonsense, because it's killing us, literally. So please, let's get it right, people.
So thank you, Ms. Jackson and team, for presenting this evening. I'm sure this is not only the last presentation. Maybe it may have been boring to some people, but it's real things that are happening in our school district, real things that teachers are encountering and paraprofessionals and all the workers in the school system are encountering. These are real problems. I would hope that people would take me up on going into the schools and seeing for ourselves what's happening. Many of our schools are doing a great job in terms of not having some of the struggles that some other schools may be having. And we have to acknowledge that. And that's why we're going to tier our schools in terms of those who need more support, because not everyone needs the same level of support. But within the classroom, if the classrooms are not going well because of student behaviors that many of these students do not have much control over because of what's happening, we have to support our staff. We have to support the teachers, the paras, the principals, everybody who's working in the trenches with the students. They feel it. They come back every day, many of them, to face the music again, and life continues again. Like a revolving door, things are happening, but we have to listen to what is going on. My assistant superintendents hear a lot. I hear a lot. Some of your board members may have heard a lot that's going on. But as Dr. Jonas said, we need everyone's help to support our students, everyone wrapping his or her arms around supporting our children, supporting our staff. This is the work that we have to do. We're not perfect. We're going to do the best we can with whatever resources we have to do that. So thank you, Ms. Jackson team, for making that presentation. The next one is, hold on, I'll get my thing, is the transportation.
Hold on, Dr. Tracy.
Did someone have something else? Okay.
Yep, Mayor Elicker had a question or comment.
Just a quick comment of thank you. It's clear that the team is doing a lot on the mental health support side. And I wanted to, in particular, note, Ms. Jackson, appreciate your work rebooting Project Pride, and a lot of issues that have been on our minds for quite some time, in particular around the violence that we're seeing in the city. And one of the important tools that I think we've all discussed is that young people need to have more ability to deal with anger, resolve conflicts in a nonviolent manner so they can become young adults that have those same tools. And that work starts early. And I just very much appreciate the work your team is doing on that front. So thank you.
Thank you. And a thank you to Mr. Eric Patowski for the working collaboratively with us with Project Pride. And for anyone who wants to know, at Riverside School, they've actually been doing a few activities and it's so needed there. So thank you for that, Mayor Elicker. Just wanted to give a shout out to him and also to the Riverside team for working collaboratively with them.
And I also want to shout out to Honorable Taisha Walker. We had some meetings with the mayor a couple months ago. We were talking about some of these same issues, and she mentioned the whole notion of what happens to Project Pride. And so from that, we went straight on ahead to bring back Project Pride. So thank you, Ms. Taisha Walker, for bringing that up, and we were able to act on that. So thank you. All right, the next is transportation update. And there have been a lot of questions swirling around transportation. We've been working hard and working with the transportation group for student and looking at varied mitigation strategies, things that can be done to alleviate some of the stressors that our families are facing, and also the schools with regard to late arrivals, late pickups, and things like that. We've been working closely with teams from the mayor's office, our side, and with transportation, along with working with folks from the CDC, State of Connecticut Department of Education. And we try to do the best we can in reaching out to whatever help we can get. I'm not sure if Carly's on here. I know some people are concerned about the financial impacts and other things. Is Carl, if Carl is not on here, Dr. Joyner, not Dr. Joyner.
I brought him over.
Right, have you seen Carl? And
yep, I brought him over and Mr. Lamb can speak.
Speak to the transportation piece. What I need to say that before Mr. Lamb say anything, that we operate from a contract with First Student. And we will, of course, ensure that what we have contracted for, that those things are what we will pay for, whatever those things are. And I know that we have received just recently their first 2 months cost. And that's what they're working through right now to analyze what are the things that we've been charged for, and then we can give a better update to the board after those analyses. Carl?
Thank you, Dr. Tracy, and that is absolutely correct. So we received the September billing statement and the October billing statement. We've started to review it internally, line by line, and measuring every line against what's in the contract, and teaching ourselves basically, some of the nuances that are part of the contract and, that are billable. So as a result, as we go one line by line, looking at what we're being charged for, there's a lot of language in the contract that requires further interpretation. That's one of the reasons that I try to incorporate corporation counsel in some of these meetings so that he can help us interpret the contract. But where we stand right now is that we're reviewing the billing statements. And again, the billing statements are not the invoices. The invoices are basically what we will pay. The billing statements is something that we've requested since COVID to kind of review everything that was delivered during a month, or in this case, 2 months, and going through it thoroughly. And if there's some anomalies, to have a discussion. And so we are continuing to review that, myself, Dr. Finley, Tom Lamb, and Linda Hanens, as well as Mr. Alexiadis. We agreed during the finance meeting that we should have the initial review done by the next finance meeting that I believe is scheduled for December 7th, and we'll give a comprehensive update of what's in the billing statement. But at the same time, we're going to be meeting on a weekly basis with First Student to talk about performance in general and what we're getting and versus what we're asking for. And that's going to start as early as Wednesday, and it's going to commence every week going forward for the rest of the school year. So that's kind of a brief update as to where we are. And, I'll entertain any questions if we have any.
Dr. Joyner and then Mr. Bolton.
First of all, let me commend you for the thoroughness and just remind everybody that the procurement policy has penalties for people who misrepresent bills and so on and so forth. And it looks like we have enough staff now. We have legal advice, we have financial acumen, and we have transportation expertise and general leadership, so that we can get a sense of whether or not we're being billed properly, whether or not they're delivering services at a high quality. And I'll say this on behalf of my colleague, Mr. Wilcox. The way that you manage finance is also very helpful. But I would remind all the professionals that our procurement policy should protect us against any inappropriate actions on the part of any vendor, not just this one, but any vendor that we have, and hopefully we can have the kind of transparency that we've been searching for all along. And I thank you for the good work you've done in this regard.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mr. Bolton.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm just going to go back to the original question I asked a couple of board meetings ago, and that was, how do we have a current budget that shows us $4 million in deficit in our transportation after 2 months? I still don't understand how that happened, how that's happening, particularly since we're getting less service from this bus company. And Superintendent Tracy started this conversation stating that we're
Is he frozen or is it me? Okay.
He froze.
Don't hear you, Mr. Golson.
Hello?
Yep,
Can hear you now.
Oh, I was frozen?
Yes.
So my internet connection is unstable. I'll have to check with the internet company. Anyhow, I don't understand how we're governed by contracts. They're not meeting the contract goals. Staff has reported that we have approximately 900 kids a day late because of the bus company not having enough drivers to fulfill those routes. So I don't know how they would be able to have an invoice at the end of the day that would be equal to what they would have if they were fulfilling the contract. So it seems real simple to me. If you're not doing what you were contracted to do, you get paid less money. And I'm not hearing that right now. I see a budget that has us $4 million in deficit on that line for transportation. So it's frustrating to me that we have a contract that we've had with this company for 15, 20 years that we still don't understand, that we're still trying to interpret, that there are different interpretations. And I really think that, that there should be an investigation of this whole contract process. How do we end up with a contract that we don't understand? And that they can interpret to their benefit. I don't understand how we got into that. I like to know how we got into that. For me, that is the beginning of this process. Is how did we get into a contract that we can't interpret? And the worst part about this contract is we can't get out of it. We have painted ourselves in a corner so that we cannot contract with another bus company because there's so many stipulations in this contract and in our current city ordinances that don't allow us to do that. A bus company has to board their buses in New Haven by city ordinance. That means a bus company that wants to bid has to have property in order to park their buses and service their buses. And no one in the state or the country is going to continue to compete or try to compete against this current bus company until we either change that ordinance or we make it easier for a competing bus company to be able to purchase property in New Haven that allows them to compete. And we got snookered the last time we brought this issue up because the last year of the contract, the bus company said they didn't want to fulfill the contract. They wanted it put out for a rebid. We had no choice but to do that. And then when they bid, it was only a 30-day or 90-day window. So no other company was able to compete against them. And they came back with a bid higher than their contract was at that time. We got snookered. It was embarrassing and it was hurtful to the taxpayers of this city. And I'm going to continue to press this issue. I didn't like it when it happened then. I don't like it now. And even when I'm not on this board and I'm still a taxpayer in the city, I'm not going to like it. So I'm going to continue to press this issue, even if no one else cares about it or wants to focus on it. I'm going to continue to focus on it because our students and our parents needs are not being met when nearly 900 of them can't make it to class on time every day. The taxpayers are not getting what they pay for, and and the school system is just being snookered and laughed at by this contractor. So I hope during your analysis of this contract that you figure out what it really says, because it seems like every time we deal with this contract, we find out that it says something else, or somebody interpreted it a different way. But there's no way that we should be at a $4 million deficit on transportation when our kids are arriving late to school every day because there aren't drivers to drive their buses. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Golden. Dr. Baldwin?
Well, one of the things that gives me hope is that we have the expertise. That contract was that relationship with that bus company goes back a few years, and I think that we have more, I guess, brain power on the challenge now. Even though COVID is a factor, and I'm confident that I don't think we've gotten an invoice yet, and that we're not going to pay them anything until we find out what we actually owe them, and that's a great thing. I think the other thing is that quality of service is an issue as well, and I just believe that that the people that we have on this problem will get to the bottom of it and be to give us specific details, and we can stop this. But this problem didn't just pop up. It's been a problem since I've been on the board, and and it's a complex problem because it's an intersection between the school board as well as city ordinance and all those other things. So Mr. Golson makes some good points, but at some point we got to figure out, get some clarity around the contract, which I think is happening, and also get some clarity around what we owe them versus what we should be paying them based on their promises, because it's a bilateral agreement. We pay you, you serve us. And what I think Carl is doing now, and Tom and Ms. Hannah is that they're saying, okay, we're going to go to, and Elia, we're going to look at this contract letter by letter, sentence by sentence. We're going to find out what your responsibilities are, what our responsibilities are, and we're not going to pay you for stuff you haven't done. And we're also going to have some conversation with you around quality of work. You know, so I feel that we're moving in the right direction. And I applaud you for continuing to ask these questions, but we are moving in the right direction. And the right people are negotiating the contract. In the past, it's been different, but I'm glad to see that right now it's in the hands of people who are professionally qualified to negotiate a contract with a bus company and get us the best value for the money that we're paying. That's all I'll have to say about the matter, but I'm not gonna knock anybody for asking questions, because that's what we should ask about every vendor, not just this one, every single vendor that we have that we're paying multiple millions to, that we should be asking for the best services for the kids and the staff in our district.
Thank you, Dr. Joyner. Mayor Elicker?
There are clear penalties in the contract if buses arrive late, or if they don't arrive at all, or if the vendor doesn't meet 90% of their obligation in the contract. And I know the team is very interested in this issue because we first want to resolve the problem, but second, want to make sure that we're not paying for a service that we're not receiving. And the questions that Mr. Golson raised, I think there can be some answer here on that. Maybe Attorney Alexiadis or Mr. Jackson, if you can talk a little bit about the conversations that have been had and the status of invoices.
I can let the finance people jump in, but as my understanding is that we have not paid any bills yet. We have not yet been invoiced for the current school year. What First Student has done is given us data that will then, depending on our conversations, that data will then be incorporated into invoices. But we haven't paid anything yet, and nor are we going to pay, nor would I recommend paying an invoice that is consistent with the raw data they've provided us. There are clearly some adjustments that need to be made before those services, before an invoice is rendered, and before we pay.
Thank you, Attorney Alexiadis. Mr. Bolton?
Thank you, Madam President. I have no doubt that the people on our side are competent. I think we had competent people before them, and even competent people before them. I don't think the question here is really about competency. It's a question about what we can and cannot do, right? They have us over a barrel. At the end of the day, just like they've come back several times before, our representatives will come back to us and say, what can we do? We need the service, and there's nobody else out there to provide the service. So we're stuck paying them whatever they want us to pay them. That's what we're going to end up coming to. And my question, I never suggested that we had any invoices, that we paid any invoices. My question was based on our budget that was given to us to review and approved. Our last budget update said we are currently $4 million in the hole in transportation, that we don't have enough money budgeted in transportation to meet our transportation needs. Now, maybe I'm reading that wrong, but I've read plenty of budgets over plenty of years, and that's the way I'm reading it. And if I'm reading it wrong, someone can correct me on that. So I'm not concerned about the competency of our team and what they're going to be able to negotiate, because at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to negotiate anything that's really worth what we think it should be worth, because we don't have any choices here. This is the only vendor that I know of that we have where we don't have any backup, anybody else to go to in case they don't provide the service. We have if that company for some reason went under tomorrow, we would not be able to provide transportation services for our children. That's a fact. And we haven't planned for how to get ourselves out of that position. And we've talked over and over again, and for the last 3 or 4 years, we've been talking about setting up some sort of alternative options for the system, and have yet to provide this board, this administration has yet to provide this board with any kind of alternatives to the system we have at this time. You know, we had a very good meeting a couple of months ago, where we talked about all kinds of options, DOT, bus passes for high school kids, parents, Uber, all kinds of things came up. But I haven't seen any follow-up to that. And we seem to, instead of being proactive, we seem to be reactive all of the time. We reacted. We know that there weren't going to be any bus drivers out there, and we didn't react to it until our kids started arriving late. And then we act like, well, we shouldn't be surprised by that. No, we shouldn't be surprised by that, but we don't have an emergency backup plan. Not one idea of, unless, again, correct me if I'm wrong. If we have an emergency backup plan on how to transport our kids, if first student is no longer available, if first student says, we don't want this contract anymore, which they've done, it made us put it back out to bid and then bid a higher price. So, we're going in circles. We're not going anywhere but in a circle. And I've seen this for the last 4 or 5 years, and it's starting to get real frustrating, because it's not like we're not aware of it. So I hope we get to the point where we fix this soon. I'm just gonna, at every board meeting now, I'm gonna bring it up. We gotta fix this transportation issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booth, and Ms. Hannons, and then Dr. Tracy.
Hannons, you're muted.
You're muted, Ms. Hannons.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just wanted to clarify a few things with the transportation encumbrance. Keep in mind that the report that we provided so far was just for the period of through October. And so it's just an encumbrance. Once we start receiving the invoices, then we can actually go back in and make the adjustments. What we try to do with our encumbrances, anything that we have like an encumbrance for or in a document for, we will go ahead and just put that in the budget. But then when invoices start coming in, then we go back and we will make adjustments. Now, we did have a meeting with Carl, and he is working on the spreadsheet that he shared with me. And once those invoices come in, you will see those numbers start to come down. Also, there are reimbursements in there as well. Like we pay for Head Start transportation, we get reimbursed for those. So there's a lot of other, behind the scenes work that we have to do. And we're doing that as documents are coming in. And that's what I wanted to explain about the encumbrance. So it's not necessarily a $4 million, over expenditure. It's just what we have in front of us right now before we make any adjustments. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hannons, for that explanation. Dr. Tracy?
Actually, Ms. Hannons said what I was going to say, that the $28 million that is shown there, $28 million, it's not just germane to first student, it's transportation overall. Mm-hmm. And so that's the explanation Ms. Hannons has sent out. which I sent to the board over the past couple of days. I sent to the board that level of explanation. But I do agree that we need to have an alternative to, and I would welcome anyone to join our task force in giving us ideas about what this alternative would look like. We have explored the alternative of giving our students bus passes, but then we go back to those days when on the green was an area that was just so crowded with our students, and a lot of other issues were created out of that. Many of our administrators had to be on the green at certain times, security guard, everyone. And we don't want to go back to those days of giving our students bus passes and then they congregate on the green. As that's why that change was made from bus passes, in case people do not have the historical knowledge about that. But we do. We have a task force that we're looking at different ways we can look at transportation moving forward for our kids. And we just have to work hard in seeing what else is there to transport 20,000 kids in New Haven Public Schools. So it's not for lack of trying or, but we're still exploring some possibilities out there.
Thank you, Dr. Tracy. Mr. Golden?
Thank you, Madam President. I don't think the kids were congregating on the green. I believe they were congregating at the mall that was downtown, which was slightly problematic. My understanding is that the city is also setting up some sort of bus depot. I don't know where that is in the process, but they're thinking about eventually having some sort of bus depot that's centralized where they could transfer at one place or something. I mean, I think there are any of these issues and problems, there are solutions. But I didn't know that there was a task force. So if there is a task force, I'd like to be invited to serve on it. I've asked to serve on many different task force and committees for this board and have not been invited. I hope that I could get invited to this task force if it exists. Thank you, Madam President.
Mr. Golden said, if it exists. This was what Mr. Conaway, remember Mr. Conaway's statement? Think outside the box.
I didn't mean it like that.
Okay.
If there is a task force, I'd like to, I'm not suggesting that you said it exists and it doesn't exist. I said, if there is a task force, I'd like to be invited. Thank you.
That's our report so far, Madam President. Until Linda does a third part under Matt Wilcox.
Good, thank you, Dr. Tracy and staff. We'll move on to the Head Start report. Mr. Wilcox.
All right, thank you very much. The Head Start Committee did meet last week. A couple things to bring to the board's attention. First thing, it's what I always say, we have plenty of spaces available in the Head Start program. We have at least a couple spaces in each location and plenty of spaces in the Mayo School location. So please let anybody who is interested to know that that stuff exists or those spaces exist. One other thing is that we did have a discussion based on the Head Start requirements to have staff vaccinated by January 31st, and staff is checking as to who this would affect and if it affects the vaccination policy August or September. So planning to hear more about that in the next meeting. So that's the Head Start report. Looks like Dr. Jackson might have a question related to this.
Dr. Jackson?
Yes, for people who want to apply for Dr. Mayo, where do they go to apply for that? Is that Meadow Street or do they go to Gulf Street?
Do you mean, Dr. Jackson, for students or for staff? For students to be in school or for staff?
For students to enroll.
Oh, then Meadow Street, and they can also check with the school also. They have been doing some real campaigning right now to get students, get the enrollment up.
Okay. Because, I'm still getting 3 and 4-year-olds that are not like in any programs, and they always ask me, where do you go? And I just send them to Gulf Street. I'm not sure where the registration is for Mayo,
The
but they're
same
still,
place, Meadow
okay.
Street. And the
All right.
the other thing too, Dr. Jackson, Head Start is somewhat different because there are certain protocols you have to follow in terms of pay scale, sliding scale, I think it is.
Mhm.
So even though I may have a 3 or 4-year-old, if I don't meet the criteria, I cannot be enrolled. So that's some of these issues we're seeing.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification.
Okay.
And I believe there's also information posted on the district website.
Yes.
On the top level page, a link that'll get you to a phone number where you can make a call, and people are very eager to sign people up. So that's the Head Start report. If you'd like, Madam President, I'll move into the Citywide School Building Committee, which will be extremely brief because that meeting was canceled and our next meeting will be in December. And then just on the Finance and Operations report, Ms. Hannons is going to give a financial report here. I'll just also say that in addition to receiving her financial report at our meeting, we did, as we have tonight, had discussion around the transportation update where committee reiterated that we're very keenly interested in how the vendor is providing the services that we're supposed to be paying for, and if not, what is the administration going to be doing or recommending that we do in order to make adjustments to our payments so that we're not letting a company profit off of not providing services to us. So in addition to that, also, we did have a good discussion related around the adult education implications in their budget for the extra costs in the rent. It was a good conversation. The principal, Michelle Bonora, and the assistant principal, Representative Tony Walker, were there. Ms. Hannons did provide some information that we can later in the year apply for reimbursement for some of those funds, which is not ideal, but it is something that's possible. And we also had discussions about the state of the building and the repairs that are required. And the committee made it very clear that we were extremely supportive of an aggressive timeline on getting the repairs done as part of signing a contract. And personally, I just recommend that if we don't have a good timeline on that, that President Rivera does not sign the contract, and instead we bring it back to the board, because we need to make sure that these issues with the leaking roof and the restrooms, et cetera, are fixed to our satisfaction. If we're going to be paying a premium, we should have a premium service on the space. Ms. Hannons, did you have a presentation?
Yes, I didn't know whether you wanted me to go through the whole report again or.
Whatever you and Dr. Tracy think needs to happen. The report was in our packets and posted on the website.
Correct.
Or does the board want the report given by Ms. Hannons, or they will have questions on what was presented in the packet? It's up to the board.
I'm okay with just reading it.
Yeah, I would just say, if you could just very briefly, Ms. Hannons, just give your caveats about it in terms of the timeline, and right. So I don't think we need the entire report, but just the information about like why there's no encumbrances for the salary information and your timeline on that.
Correct. So to date, we've spent the $52 million with general funds spending the 36, and with the grants coming in, it's spent 16 so far. The encumbrance is basically the personnel is always the last piece to go over with the expenditures, and that's because, as we're still hiring and following the blue sheets and checking to make sure that everybody are in the right accounts, or that if some of the folks are grant related. So that's what we've been spending our time on thus far. So the first report, which was general fund, all that basically showed was that what we've spent to this, to this day. As you can see, it didn't have the projections in there, and those will be in the next report, which of course would be the November report, where we have better figures. We actually, what we do, we'll go in and we'll say, okay, fine. We stop the, we'll run a report, but we actually freeze the data. So once we freeze the data, then we could start doing projections, because if we keep it going, we would be continuously always looking back, starting all over again. So what we decided to do was to stop it at the last board meeting, and now we are actually doing projections. We did have a great meeting with the principals where we went by and we looked at every single school. We sent out a list, and each of the principals had to tell us whether these people were in their buildings or whether they were not in their buildings, or whether they went from, like, say, first grade to fifth grade. So we did all of that. We got a great response with the principals. So now we're going into phase 2, which we're now working with HR to clean up anything that was, like, say, if the person had the wrong account number within the fund. So we're doing that now. I feel good about it. And so that's where we are with the general fund financial report. Again, it was just expenditures to date. No other information was provided thus far in there. We were also, for this report, we were able to go into the grants and start posting some of that. So far to date, the budget is 104, and we had actuals of $16 million. We have encumbrances so far of $11 million, and then the other column, of course, is the available budget. The graphs are self-explanatory. One is by category, and the other is by what the revenues received to date. There's also a page in there which I put in, and that was basically to show you how to read the financial report. And so it, if you could take time to just, if you're looking at the numbers, this tells you where the numbers are actually coming from. And again, some of these grants I just wanted to mention are not fiscal year grants, so we have to set them up as fiscal year grants. So some grants could be 4 years, some could be 3. Because of COVID, they actually gave us extensions on some grants in September of the fiscal year. So we have to take all of that into consideration when we're doing these, the projections on, we're not so much this projections, but setting up the actual revenue versus what has actually been spent versus what the new anticipated funding in. So that's what this last sheet is here. It just basically tells you what was rolled over, what was approved to be rolled over, and where we are with those numbers. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. It looks like Mr. Goldson had a question.
Sure.
Mr. Colton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Madam President. I just need again an explanation, because I thought I knew what this meant. So I need a better explanation of what an encumbrance means, because I know year-to-date actuals is what we actually spent year-to-date. Encumbrances, I always was told, or I was told at one time, and I believed it, was that money that we have.
You frozen again?
He's frozen again.
I can't see him.
I can see him. He's frozen. He hasn't moved a muscle.
Should I go ahead and explain it?
Yeah, I guess so. Maybe you can hear it.
Yeah, basically, not to hold up the meeting, but basically, an encumbrance is like a purchase order. If a purchase order comes in for a supply, we put in encumbrance. Everything that we get we put it on the system. And I'm a stickler about that because, you know, I have to deal with grants a lot and I have to do a lot of monthly drawdowns on cash and all of that and be worried about cash on hand. So what happens is that any document that comes into the office is considered an encumbrance until it gets paid.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was kicked off and I just came back on, so I didn't hear that explanation.
I'll start all over again. What an encumbrance is what the funds that we have been, like, we're putting aside funds that we've gotten a document for. So if we get a purchase order for say textbooks, that is considered an encumbrance until the bill actually gets paid. Then it goes from the encumbrance column right over to the expenditure column.
Okay, so that's what I thought it was. Okay.
Okay.
So that means that you have $28.6 million in documents.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. And how do those documents differ from actual payments or actual costs?
Okay. What comes in? The way we do it is that we don't assume anything. What we try to do is sometimes we'll do something from past history, like the bus contract. Well, that's an encumbrance based on the contract itself, what we have on file. And so even with purchase orders, everything that comes through the office, and I'm a real stickler with that because I can't go on assumptions. So what happens is that every document that comes through our office, once it's approved by the business office, goes right into the accounting system. And I have to be a stickler with that because of the fact that on the grant side, everything that we spend, I have to ask for cash for. And, I don't ever want to get hit. I always tell people I don't like orange. So I wouldn't do, I want to make sure that, I'm sorry. But I want to make sure that every dime that I ask for to be reimbursed or to pay bills, that I have a document for that. That's what that is. So that's an encumbrance.
All right. So that $24.6 million transportation cost, the adopted budget, that is more than first student?
Yes. Yeah. That's everything that's a summary. So that's everything under transportation.
So what other transportation do we provide other than first student?
Okay. We provide, she gave me a list of it. We have in there something, outplacement transportation, piggyback rides, there's kiddie cabs, there's first student, there's the ACEs, they do their outplacement transportation, and then another one was ACEs, transportation services, special
ed. Cards.
Yeah.
Could I ask you this?
Yeah.
Can I interrupt for a moment? What percentage of that transportation, what dollar number is the first student? Is it 22? Is it 23?
Let me see. I'm not in the office, so I don't have that.
And while you're looking, let me ask a piggyback to that. Is that 24.6 encumbered already because you have the contract?
No. What happens is that I'm trying to see. Let's see what are in the encumbrances. Okay.
This is very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Madam Chair, would it be appropriate for Mr. Golson to have a conversation with Ms. Annis so that he can get all the details?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I don't need to get it right now. Yeah. I think that's probably
okay. And could I add something about encumbrances?
I'm not President.
Yeah. I just want to add something because I think there's a third part of that that's really important, so that vendors won't cheat us, and so that they won't add to a contract. We have the final stage is verifying that the service or good has been delivered, or that the service or good was not beyond the scope of the contract.
Correct.
Because in the past, in certain school districts, you might have a contract for, say, $3 million, And you may decide on your own to add another $500,000 in services without it being another contract. And some people have done that, and they can't be allowed to get away with it. So that's the final stage. The goods or service has been delivered, and it has been delivered at the quality specified in the contract. And that's why we had a robust procurement policy, so we can stop some of that stuff. And hopefully we can continue that.
And also, I just need to mention too, that within remember, this is just encumbrances now and expenditures to date. We still have to go back in and put what we anticipated projected revenue. So we do get revenue back from the magnet transportation. And again, we do get money back from Head Start transportation. So there are some reimbursements that would go in there, but I'm one of those, when I see the dollar, that's when I make the adjustment. So as soon as those funds come in, we will then adjust the budgets accordingly as well. But we can't reduce the city budget, so then we would just probably move things around. But we do have to, we do have some expected revenue coming in.
Thank you, Ms. Hammonds. Dr. Jordan, did you still have?
No, I should put my hand down. Sorry about that.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, does that conclude your presentation, Ms. Hammonds?
Yes, it does.
Good job.
Thank you.
Governance report. Dr.
Yes,
Jackson?
governance continues to work on the outstanding policies that we're reviewing and utilizing the efforts of the Yale intern, Jasmine.
Questions or comments for Dr. Jackson?
That's it. That's it.
Thank you. Food Service Task Group, Mr. Conway?
Yeah, my report's going to be very short. We are working on the food chain shortage continues to be monitored. This is the first gap that's coming up in with our break with Thanksgiving holiday. So food gaps when school is not in sessions. We've been addressing that to enable other options for families. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the communities. I've been seeing a lot of stuff, and there's stuff on our website. And we are looking at food allergy policies. They continue to be monitored and updated and implemented. So those are the things that we're focusing on with the Food Service Task Group. Those are our themes, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Any questions or comments for Mr. Conway? Okay, and so that concludes our agenda. So I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Madam Chair, I motion to adjourn the meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Dr. Jackson, Mr. Conway. Oh,
second.
Thank you, Mr. Conway. Mr. Wilcox,
Yes.
Dr. Joyner,
Yes.
Dr. Jackson,
Yes.
Mr. Conway,
Yes.
Mr. Goldson,
Yes.
Ms. Ramon is no longer with us. Mayor Elker,
Yes.
and I yes as well. Good night, everyone, and thank you all.
Night, everyone.
Have a nice Thanksgiving.
You too.